You just tapped send. And before your thumb even lifts off the glass, that message is already gone. It crossed the whole city in about 0.04 of a second. No wire left your phone. Nothing plugged in. You're on a train platform holding a slab of metal and glass, and somehow a sentence just leapt out of it, sprinted across town, and lit up someone else's screen. So how does cellular data actually work? We are going to chase exactly one message from your thumb to a tower, through a wall of fiber, out to the internet, and all the way back. And I'll be honest up front, here's the part nobody tells you: your phone was never really on the internet at all. Not the way you picture it. Stick around, because that reveal is genuinely weird. First, meet the lie in every single explainer you've ever seen. They draw your phone. They draw a cloud labeled internet. And they draw one straight, confident blue line between them, like a hose running from your pocket to the web. There is no hose. There is no line. What's really there is thin air, and a negotiation. Your message doesn't travel as words. And it's astonishingly small. A classic text message is capped at 140 bytes, 160 characters, no more. That wasn't an accident. Texting was built tiny on purpose, so it could sneak through the network's leftover scraps of capacity. Your gossip has always been a stowaway. So your sentence gets chopped into a tiny packet of ones and zeros, and those bits ride out on a radio wave. The tower reads them in the wave's tiny wobbles of strength and timing, a trick called QAM. Then that wave launches off your phone's antenna at the speed of light. Not fast. Light speed. 300,000 kilometers a second. And here's the first surprise. The tower you're talking to is maybe half a mile away. At the speed of light, your signal reaches it in about a millionth of a second. So if the hop is basically instant, why did I say the message took 0.04 of a second? Hold that thought. It's the whole punchline, and we'll come back to it. Now, why is it called cellular? Why cells? It's a clever, old idea. Back in 1947, an engineer at Bell Labs named D.H. Ring wrote a memo proposing something nobody could build yet: don't put up one giant, screaming antenna to cover a whole city. Instead, slice the city into a honeycomb of little zones, call them cells, and give each its own low-power tower. It sounds like a downgrade. It's the opposite. It's the trick that makes the entire system possible. Here's why. The radio spectrum a carrier is allowed to use is tiny, and everyone shares it. If one megatower claimed a frequency, that frequency would be burned for the whole city. But if every tower is deliberately weak, its signal fading out after a short distance, then a tower across town can reuse the exact same frequency, and the two never hear each other. That's called frequency reuse, and it's the reason 1 million people in one city can all be on their phones at once. In the textbook version, you cluster the cells in groups of 7, each taking 1/7 of the channels, then stamp that honeycomb across the map. And the shape isn't decoration. Engineers draw cells as hexagons because a hexagon has exactly 6 equal neighbors and tiles a map with no gaps. Circles would leave holes, hexagons snap together perfectly. Real coverage is messier. Buildings and hills bend the signal into blobs, but the 6-sided idea is the blueprint under the whole system. And cells have a hard size limit, a beautiful piece of physics. Because the tower has to keep every phone's timing perfectly lined up, a single LTE cell can only stretch so far before the math breaks, about 100 kilometers. 60-odd miles, absolute maximum. In a busy city they're a tiny fraction of that, sometimes just a couple hundred meters across. The honeycomb is real, just invisible, and you cross dozens of its walls every commute without noticing. So your packet flies to the nearest cell tower. And people assume the tower is where the internet lives. It isn't. The tower is a relay. A very smart doorman. Its job: catch your radio wave, turn those bits back into data, and shove them down a cable. Because here's the thing that ruins the word wireless forever: your signal is only wireless for the first hop. The instant it hits that tower, your OSA wireless message drops onto physical fiber optic cable buried in the ground, the backhaul, and from there it's glass and light, like everything else on the internet. That fiber carries your packet to the real brain of the network, the core, a room full of computers doing the unglamorous, essential work. It checks that you're a real paying customer and not someone spoofing your number. It figures out where your packet goes. And this is the sneaky bit, the core is what hands your phone an internet address. Your phone doesn't own an address on the web, it borrows one from the carrier's core every time it wakes up. Only after the core stamps your packet does it step out onto the open internet, race to whatever server your message is headed for, and start the whole trip again in reverse. But wait. You're on a train. You're moving. You just left the range of that first tower. So why didn't the message drop? As you move, the network quietly watches your signal fade on one tower and swell on the next, and at the perfect moment, mid-sentence, mid-packet, it hands you over. One tower lets go, the next catches you, and you feel absolutely nothing. That life pass is called a handoff, and getting a call to survive it was so hard it earned its own patent, granted in 1972, to a Bell Labs engineer named Amos Joel. Every time you drive through a city on a call and it doesn't drop, you're being handed tower to tower, like a baton in a relay you can't see. Time to collect our reward, and explain that 0.04 of a second. On a 4G network, the round trip, your phone, to the tower, through the core, out to a server and all the way back, typically takes somewhere between 30 and 50 milliseconds. On 5G, it can be less. And here's the honesty beat, because this is where these videos love to mislead you. You'll hear 5G has 1 millisecond latency. That 1 millisecond number is a theoretical best case in a lab. Out here, on a real phone, you're getting tens of milliseconds, same ballpark as good 4G. But look closer, the breakdown is the fun part. Remember, the radio wave's flight to the tower was a millionth of a second. Basically free. So where did the other 30 plus milliseconds go? Not into distance. Into thinking. Waiting for your turn to transmit, on a schedule the tower runs in tidy 1 millisecond slices. Queuing. The core checking you. The server taking its sweet time. Your message isn't slow because it travels far, it's slow because it stands in line. The speed of light was never the bottleneck. Bureaucracy was. And that brings us to the reveal I promised, why your phone isn't really on the internet. Picture your phone right now in your pocket, while you're not touching it. You'd assume it's holding an open connection, a live wire humming away. It's not. When you're not actively using data, your phone drops into an idle state and basically goes to sleep. It lets go of the network entirely. No open pipe. No live line. It just wakes up for a fraction of a second, every second or two, to listen for one thing, its own name, the network calling out, "Anyone got a message for this phone?" If the answer's no, it goes right back to sleep. And then, about once every 54 minutes, it does something almost sweet. It fully wakes and sends a tiny check-in, a little ping that just says, "Still here. Still in this part of town." That's so the network knows which towers to yell into if a call comes. Right now, all around you, millions of phones are doing this, sleeping, twitching awake to listen, whispering "still here," and dozing off again. That is what having signal actually is. Not a wire. Not a connection. A phone that's mostly asleep, constantly reintroducing itself to the nearest tower, ready to reconnect the instant you tap the screen. You are not plugged into the internet. You are a regular at a bar the network happens to keep an eye on. While we're busting things, let's kill one more myth, because you look at it 50 times a day. The bars. Those bars do not measure your speed. They measure signal strength, basically, how loud the nearest tower sounds to you. That's it. Your actual speed depends on totally different things, how clean that signal is versus the noise around it, and how many other people are jammed onto the same tower fighting for the same airtime. Which is exactly why you can stand there with full bars and watch a page refuse to load. Full bars, dead slow. The tower's loud, it's just slammed. Strong signal was never the same thing as fast internet, and now you know why the little icon keeps lying to your face. So, one last time, the whole relay, thumb to bits, bits to a radio wave, wave to the nearest low-power cell, cell to buried fiber, fiber to the core, which checks you, addresses you, and launches your packet onto the internet, out to a server and all the way back, surviving a handoff or two if you're moving. And the whole loop takes about the time it takes to blink, not because anything traveled far, but because everything waited in line at the speed of the schedule. And the second you lock your screen, your phone lets it all go and curls back to whispering still here to a tower that's always half listening. If you just learned something genuinely useful, the real reason your bars lie, and why your phone is basically a very polite regular at the network's bar, hit subscribe. We break down the tech you use every single day, and you'll never look at that little signal icon the same way again.